So this is how mine looks. You can see this is the back, and you can see how nice the seam is, and all the spaces are equal. And this is what the front looks like. Looks really beautiful. Now I made mine about 4 inches in length from the brim before I started closing mine. So now I'm going to show you how I start to close the top. So you can see how I started the row the same way with a chain of 2, and then I placed my yarn marker and my stitch marker. So now the next stitch is going to be a half double crochet, 2 stitches together. And I'm going to include the half double crochet, front post half double crochet stitch from the previous row. So I ended with the half double crochet front post stitch from the previous row. I didn't make one more round of half double crochets. And now after I finish that front post half double crochet round, I'm going to make a decrease round. So for the first stitch after your chain 2, we're going to make a half double crochet decrease 2 stitches together. So you just yarn over, and you're going to go around the front post from the previous round, bring up a loop, and then yarn over and go into the next stitch and bring up a loop, and then yarn over and go through all 5 loops. Oh, let me try that one more time. So yarn over, go around the front post from the previous round, bring up a loop, yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop. You have 5 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through all 5 loops for a half double crochet decrease stitch. Then you're going to yarn over and then go around the front post, double crochet only, bring up a loop, and then make your front post half double crochet stitch. And you're going to alternate this half double crochet decrease stitch and then half double crochet front post decrease stitch. Let me repeat that. So the first stitch after your chain 2 will be a half double crochet 2 stitches together, decrease stitch. Then you're going to make a half double crochet, a front post half double crochet stitch, and we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around. So you yarn over, go around the half double crochet front post stitch from the previous round, bring up a loop, yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop. You have 5 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through all 5 loops for a half double crochet decrease stitch. Then you're going to yarn over, go around the front post, half double crochet front post stitch from the previous round, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through all 3 for a half double crochet front post stitch. And you're going to keep repeating this all the way around back to where you started. So I'm going to make one more set with you. Yarn over, go around the post of the previous round, bring up a loop, yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, 5 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through all 5 for a half double crochet decrease stitch. Then yarn over and go around the next post, bring up a loop to complete a front post half double crochet decrease stitch. So go ahead, repeat that pattern all the way around and then come back. So now I'm back to my yarn marker, and I finished a half double crochet decrease stitch along with a half double crochet front post stitch. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove my yarn marker, and I'm just going to go ahead and make another half double crochet front post stitch, and then I'm just going to join to complete the round with a slip stitch. So now I have 30 stitches in the round. So you can see how it decreased that round, but you still have your half double crochet front post stitches. They're still parallel. So now what you're going to do is you still chain 2 and then put your stitch marker into that second chain, and then I still like to place my yarn marker so I know when my last stitch is for the round. Then I'm just going to take and make 1 half double crochet into every stitch around. So 1 round of 1 half double crochet stitch in every stitch around. Then you remove your stitch marker, make your last half double crochet in the round, and then join with the slip stitch to complete the round, and then chain 2 to move up to the next round. So now I have my stitch marker in place and I have my yarn marker, and now you're going to be making a half double crochet front post stitch, front post half double crochet stitch around every half double crochet front post stitch from 2 rounds down. All the way around back to where you started. And then come back. And so now that brings me back to where I started. I'm going to go ahead and make a slip stitch into the stitch with the stitch marker, and then chain 2 to move up to our next round, which will be our decrease round. So now for this decrease round, you're going to make it the same way. So you're going to go around the front post of the previous round's front post half double crochet, bring up a loop, yarn over, go into the next, actually go around the next post, bring up a loop. Now you have 5 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through all 5 for a half double crochet decrease stitch. Then you're going to make a front post half double crochet stitch around the next post, and then a decrease stitch, half double crochet decrease stitch around the next 2 posts. Then you're going to make a half double crochet, front post half double crochet stitch around the next post, and then you're going to make a front post half double crochet decrease stitch around the next 2 posts. And you're just going to keep repeating that pattern all the way around back to where you started, and then come back. And then that brings me to my last stitch. So I'm going to remove the stitch marker, make my last front post half double crochet decrease stitch, and then slip stitch into the stitch with the stitch marker. See if I can get in there. Wait, not in there. Sometimes you can remove the stitch marker if you need to, but there, I was able to do it. And then chain 2, and then get ready for the next round. So this is what my hat looks like now, and you can see how all of the lines are staying straight and towards the top of the hat, which is the way that you want it. So this is how my work looks so far. You can see how it's getting smaller. So now I've moved my yarn marker up and my stitch marker, and this time we're going to make 1 half double crochet in every stitch around, just like we did before. So 1 half double crochet in every stitch around. So if you have a little bit of a space here, which I do, I'm going to go ahead and close that gap. So what I'm going to do is have my chain 2, and I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to go into that stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, and just make a half double crochet decrease stitch. And then that will bring that together. Then you're just going to make 1 half double crochet in every stitch around. And then that brings me to my stitch marker. I'm going to go ahead and make a half double crochet in the last stitch, and then I'm going to join the round with the slip stitch in the stitch with the stitch marker. Then I'm going to chain 2 and get ready for the next decrease round. Now I have my yarn marker in place and my stitch marker in place, and now you're going to make your front post half double crochet stitches. So each time you have the dual where we made the decrease, you're going to go around both of those. So yarn over and go around both of the half double crochet posts, and then yarn over, bring up a loop, and make a front post half double crochet stitch. Then you're going to make 1 around the single post, front post half double crochet stitch. And then now I have the dual or double post. So you want to go around both of those. And then you're just going to repeat that all the way around. And then that brings me to my yarn marker. I'm going to go ahead and remove that, and then finish my last front post half double crochet stitch around the last post, and then make my slip stitch into the stitch with the stitch marker, and then chain 2 to move up to the next round. And then this is how my work is looking. So it's getting smaller and smaller. We're almost closed. So now we're going to make front post half double crochet decrease stitches all the way around. So you yarn over, go around the first post, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, go around the next post, bring up a loop, and then yarn over and go through all 5 for a half double crochet front post decrease stitch. And you're just going to repeat that all the way around. Make 1 more with you. So I'm just going around the posts from the previous round and making a front post half double crochet decrease stitch. So now I'm back to, I had my stitch marker here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these posts together. So I'm going to go around this post and then around the post right before my stitch marker, and just make a front post half double crochet decrease stitch, and then I'm going to make a slip stitch to finish the round. And you can see that I'm almost closed and it looks great. See the spirals go all the way to the closing here. So now you can go ahead and remove your stitch marker, and we're just going to make single crochet 2 stitches together. So you're going to go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over, and go through all 3 for a single crochet 2 stitches together. And you're just going to single crochet 2 stitches together until you're almost closed. It's getting smaller and smaller. and then we're going to slip stitch it closed. So you're going to go into the next stitch, yarn over and bring the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. Then you're going to go into the next stitch. You're just going to slip stitch until the top is completely closed. Then when the top is completely closed, go ahead and finish off, just yarn over and just pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. And then you have the closed top, and we're going to bury the loose yarn end on the inside. So just take your tapestry needle, put it onto the loose yarn end, and then bring it in towards the wrong side of the hat. And then on the wrong side of the hat, you can take and just bury the loose yarn end. And you can even, if you don't like some of the gaps, you could take and bring those gaps together. And if you need more of the same colored yarn, you can use that too to bring the gaps closer. And if you're using a pom-pom, you won't even have to worry about it. And then once you're happy with how the yarn is buried, I'll tie a knot here since I used it to close up some of the gaps. And then I'm just going to bury it. Then you can take and trim the loose yarn end. So this is what it looks like on the right side. You can see how the lines merge towards the top, which is why I like to close it that way. And this is what it looks like on the front. You have the nice, beautiful design, and then you have the brim of the hat. Looks gorgeous. Now, like I said, if you want your hat a little bit longer, before you start closing, you just add more length. Now remember, for mine I made 4 inches. You could make 5 inches if you want instead, and then start closing if you wanted a little bit more length. Now if you want a pom-pom on the top of the hat, I'm going to show you how I make my pom-pom. Now for the pom-pom, I like to use my Clover pom-pom maker, and you just open it up so that the arches are off to the side, and then take your yarn, and I always start from that side of the pom-pom arch and then just wrap the yarn around the arches completely. So this is what mine looks like after wrapping the yarn around the arch, and then I end on the opposite side. This is where I started with the yarn, and then this is the opposite side, and then I'm going to go ahead and trim the yarn on the opposite side and then close the arch. So the more yarn you place on there, of course, the fuller the pom-pom will be. And then I'm just going to repeat the same thing on the opposite side. Then I like to use smaller embroidery scissors to cut the pom-pom. So you take and cut down the center on each side. Then you're going to take a length of your yarn. Make sure you have enough to help sew, not only tie a knot around the center of the pom-pom, but also to help sew it in place on the hat. So you just take and bring the yarn right down the center and then tie a knot. Then I just take and remove the yarn on the sides, and then you can take and open up the arch, and it creates the perfect pom-pom. Now if you want to make your own homemade pom-poms, on my Crochet Baby Sleepy Owl hat, I show how to use cardboard to make your own little pom-pom without the clover pom-pom maker. So this is what the hat would look like without the pom-pom. This is the back of the hat, the front of the hat. So now just get your tapestry needle, place it on the long end that you left for sewing, and then you're just going to go right down the center. I go to the side of the center with one strand of the pom-pom, and then take the other loose yarn end, and then I just go down on the other side. And then that brings the pom-pom right on the center of the hat. Then on the inside, you can take and just tie a knot. And then I take the loose yarn end strands and then go right back through the pom-pom. With both strands. Then you can take and just trim the loose yarn ends to blend in with the pom-pom. And then you have an adorable pom-pom on the top of your hat. You can trim it if you need to. And then you have your pom-pom hats. I made them both about the same size, but I showed you how you could make them larger if you wanted to. And I think they look really adorable.